Hey, and welcome to the Deep Resilience Podcast. I'm your host, Melly O'Brien, and in this podcast, along with my weekly newsletter and the Deep Resilience program, we are focusing on one clear goal: translating the best evidence-based tools and the deep wisdom teachings on mental resilience into practical everyday strategies that are accessible to everyone. It is my deep passion to bring you content that breaks down big concepts in ways that make sense to you, but also to make sure I give you tools in each episode that you can immediately use to grow your inner strength and create real positive change in your life and in the world. And hey, if you want to take your inner strength to the next level, be sure to join my newsletter at mellyobrien.com, where you'll receive a whole range of extra benefits, special offers, and bonuses. Let's dive in now to today's episode. What if the way that you spoke to yourself in the hardest moments of your life could change everything? Imagine being able to turn the storms of self-doubt and disempowerment and negativity into a wave of peace and healing and empowerment. Today, I'm going to be sharing the power of self-compassion with you, and I'm going to share a 3-step process that you can use in the most difficult, the darkest, the hardest, the most overwhelming moments of your life. If you have ever found yourself feeling trapped in harsh self-talk, overwhelm, or really feeling defeated in the face of your challenges, this episode is for you. We're going to be diving into a topic that is very, very close to my heart and may have even been really instrumental in, certainly changed my life, and may have even been instrumental in saving my life. So I want to start with a personal story. So one of the most transformative experiences of my life happened when I was 18. Now, I want to give you a little bit of context here because I know that not everyone who listens to this episode knows me and knows my story. So just to give you a bit of context, a couple of years before this personal story I'm going to tell you, I went through a dark night of the soul. I was probably 16 years old, maybe 17 years old. I had depression, I had an eating disorder, and I had also just hit rock bottom. I was having suicidal ideation, and I went through a transformative experience during a dark night of the soul that led me on a journey to start exploring how to become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stronger. I really wanted a way out of pain, and I thought I had only 2 choices. Either I'm going to take my own life or I need to find my way through to a new one. And luckily for me, I did manage to find slowly some resources around me. Therapy didn't work. I tried other healing modalities that didn't work, but gradually what did work is I started training my mind in new ways, and it was very, very powerful. So context is there, and this is a couple of years after my dark night of the soul. Still obviously learning a lot. I'm 18 years old, and on this particular day, I was nursing my first really, really broken heart after a painful breakup. And so I remember walking through my neighborhood on the day when the breakup happened. And it was just after the conversation that actually ended the relationship. So I'm on this walk in my neighborhood and I am in pain. Oh my goodness. Can you guys remember what it's like, the first broken heart? Oh my goodness, the pain took me by surprise. The pain was searing emotional pain. And so I responded to that searing emotional pain in the way that I always did at that time, which was with self-loathing and self-criticism, because that's a part of my conditioning, my setup. So that's usually my default thing to go to. That's where my mind goes quickly. It goes to somehow, it can make it, I can self-criticize. My mind is very good at finding a reason to make everything my fault and make a story about how almost anything bad that happens to me is somehow a reflection of my worthiness. So this was where I was at. I'm playing out the same old pattern that I'd been playing at for years and years, probably as long as I could remember at that time. And I am just consumed by self-criticism. My mind is telling me stories that are putting me down, telling me it's all my fault, telling me nobody's ever going to love me again. Just saying really like the most awful, unhelpful, unskillful, deeply painful things. So I've got the initial pain of the breakup, and then my mind is just piling layer after layer of negative thought and suffering and stress and overwhelm and disempowerment and self-criticism on top of an already difficult time. But then something happened. Something shifted. Because I recognized what was happening, and that is always the first key to freedom and peace of mind. I recognized what my mind was doing, and I stopped in the middle of the path, and I took a deep breath. And I remembered something that I had just learnt in a course that I was doing called self-compassion. So I said to myself mentally in a kind voice, this hurts. This is really hard. This is a way of acknowledging my pain. And then I placed a hand on my heart as a gesture of kindness towards myself. And I said, may I be kind to myself in this moment. And in that instant, I felt an enormous wave of relief. Literally physical tension left to my body, my jaw, my scalp, my shoulders, my whole body just let go of so much tension. And so did my mind. And tears started to stream down my face softly. And I also at the same time felt a sense of safety and calm internally, a sense of steadiness. And I realized in that particular moment of my life, I really understood something viscerally. I understood something in my direct experience that I never ever forgot. I understood that when I handled my pain by just allowing my mind to run wild, fighting what I'm feeling, beating myself up for what I'm feeling, judging myself for what I'm feeling, putting myself down for what I'm feeling, just struggling in some way really against what I'm feeling, fighting it. Instead of doing that, I realized that I had this choice to be on my own side and meet my pain and myself with compassion, with awareness and with kindness. And it was game-changing because from that moment on, I realized that I could find a safe harbor within myself, even in the middle of the wildest storms. And in my work over the years with many, many people, and I've coached and taught many, many people about mindfulness and mental resilience from all around the world. And in my work, I've seen how self-compassion is ground zero of resilience. This is where the foundation or the bedrock of mental strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength really, really is. It starts with self-compassion. And what is self-compassion? In its essence, it's just about treating yourself with the same kindness and care you would offer to a close friend. But what many of us do in hard times is we do exactly the opposite, right? Instead of comforting ourselves, instead of supporting ourselves and being on our own side, in hard times, we criticize ourselves, we judge ourselves, we add to our suffering, we put ourselves down, we push ourselves through, we don't give ourselves a break, and we have usually an avalanche. For many of us, we have a really strong, harsh inner voice that can greatly intensify our stress, our anxiety, our suffering, our negativity, our disempowerment. And so here's a couple of other things that you may or may not know about how that harsh inner voice can affect us. So first of all, in any given situation, we have the pain, right? My initial pain was the searing emotional pain, the grief of losing something that I loved, someone that I loved. And that's already really painful. But what I was doing when I was going on that tirade of negative thinking and my inner critics going wild, is that I am adding layer upon layer upon layer of suffering on top of an already very, very difficult time. So you take a difficult time and then you make it way, 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 way worse, way more painful, debilitating. So when we do that, it's important to remember, this is like one of the things that I always come back to when I'm coaching people on becoming more mentally resilient, is you always want to be asking your question, like, is this useful or helpful? Is this helpful or is this harmful? It's just like eating a bad piece of food. If you eat something and, you get really, really sick, you don't want to eat that thing again. But often we do this mentally. We do a habit mentally and it really hurts. It really is making us kind of like mentally sick. It's so painful. It disempowers us. It limits our potential. It amplifies our suffering, our anxiety, and our overwhelm. But we keep doing it over and over and over again because we haven't recognized the patterns. So my point of power in my personal story was, first of all, recognize this isn't helpful. This is making things so much worse. Let me find a more adaptive response. So that basic pattern, recognizing what is no longer useful or helpful, that's the first step to any change. And then the second step, what's a more adaptive response? So the self-compassion is a more adaptive response. Here's another reason why. Not only does it, practicing self-compassion, massively reduce our stress, our emotional storms, our anxiety, but also a harsh inner voice. When you're speaking to yourself like a bully or a slave driver or an inner critic or whatever you want to, maybe you have a certain name, something like the inner critic, maybe you have the slave driver or the whip cracker or some name for that harsh inner voice. Well, when that harsh inner voice is activated, it can not only amplify our stress, our anxiety, and our, negativity and disempowerment, but it actually triggers our body's fight or flight response. Now, when your fight or flight response is activated, that is problematic for several different reasons, but one of them is that when your fight or flight response is activated, it can hijack your frontal cortex, which is the smart part of your brain. This is the part of your brain that can respond instead of reacting. It can make rational decisions and think things through really logically, figure out next steps, take action to do things that will help you. And so when your fight or flight response gets activated, think about it this way. When your emotions go up, your logic will often go down. So if you've ever felt out of control, lashed out, done or said things that you wish you hadn't, and became really reactive, when you are stressed, it's often because your fight or flight response has hijacked the smart part of your brain. So here's the thing, self-compassion, the harsh inner voice will probably do what it does. What we're doing here is we're not trying to get rid of that voice. We're just responding to that voice in a more adaptive way. We're responding to our situation in a more adaptive way. We're bringing online a new response to our situation. So we don't have to get rid of that voice. We're just choosing to activate a self-compassionate one in the middle of it all, okay? Don't worry about getting rid of the voice. You're going to activate self-compassion. And when you do that, it activates our soothing system. So now it's going to down-regulate your body's fight or flight response, or even turn it off. It's going to release often oxytocin when you are self-compassionate, which is otherwise known as the love hormone. That hormone reduces cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And so you're going to immediately be able to respond more effectively to what's happening. You're going to feel more calm and centered, and you're going to have an internal sense of safety and stability, even when everything else outside you is going a little bit sideways. So the research shows also, right, that self-compassion, this is the reason I want to touch on this. So self-compassion, when I often introduce it to people, they have a little bit of resistance to it, especially the A-type high achievers. They think maybe that it's self-indulgent, weak, or it's going to, if they don't crack the whip of self-criticism on themselves, that they're going to become lazy and they're going to lose their edge and their engagement in life. The research shows the opposite. Self-compassion not only leads to greater mental resilience, but it helps us also to bounce back faster from any setbacks on the way to obstacles. It leads to greater happiness, and people who are self-compassionate are more likely to reach their goals. I really want you to take that one in, high achievers. It makes you actually more able to reach your goals. Self-compassionate people are able to stay motivated without getting discouraged on the way to achieving their goals. And I'm going to explain why. Imagine this analogy of a child learning to ride a bike. If they fall off, maybe even, graze their knee, if a loving parent offers them encouragement, kind words, and tells them it's going to, it's okay, you're going to get this, just keep trying, you're doing great, and they're really hold that child as they learn this new skill in an environment of encouragement and safety and kindness, that child is going to be able to try again to stay more resilient and pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and try again as many times as they need to. However, if that parent criticizes them, tells them that they're just not really, they're just stupid, they don't know what they're doing, they're probably not even a bike riding kind of person, if they don't comfort them when they fall off the bike and eye roll at them and tell them they're an idiot, that child is not going to be as resilient. They're not going to bounce back as quickly from their setbacks. They're likely to get really discouraged, really emotional, really unsettled. So they're not going to be as good. They're actually going to have less of an edge. They're going to bounce back slower, and they're going to have reduced motivation to get to the end of that task and learn that skill. So remember this, especially you A-types, you high achievers. I see you. I know. I've heard the pushback. So I really want you to know that when you treat yourself with kindness, you are not going to lose your edge. You're going to gain an edge. You're going to create a safe internal space for you to learn, grow, thrive, try again, stay motivated, and keep moving towards the things that really matter to you. Now, especially, my friends, especially when you get hit with something really, really big, really hard, practice self-compassion. And I'm just going to break this down into a 3-step simple process that you can use anytime that you find yourself in the face of something really difficult or painful. Okay. First thing you're going to do is mentally say to yourself a phrase that acknowledges your feelings, acknowledges what you are going through. So you can use a phrase like I did back when I was 18. Oh, this really hurts. Oh, this is really hard right now. Or you can even just say something simple like, this is a moment of suffering. If you can't, you can even just say, oh, ouch, this hurts. It's just a way of acknowledging what's happening for you. And that's the first step to self-compassion. The second step is to offer words of kindness. Speak to yourself as you would speak to a friend or a loved one who is hurting. Try saying something like, I'm so sorry, this is so hard, I'm here for you. Or you might like to say to yourself, like I did that day, may I be kind to myself in this moment. Or you can offer yourself some other words of support, of care, of compassion. Okay, and then the final step is to ask yourself, what do I need right now? And then if you can, take a compassionate action. Do something to actually support your well-being. This might be a really simple thing, like taking a big out breath or walking a bit slower or giving yourself permission to rest or call a friend or have a warm bath. Do something to take care of yourself if that's possible, right? So again, step 1, acknowledge your pain. Oh man, this hurts. This is really hard right now. Offer kindness. Step 2, may I be kind to myself in this moment. Right? So we say this to ourselves mentally or out loud if you want to. And just making sure that your inner voice when you do this has a kindly and compassionate and soothing tone. Step 3, ask yourself, what do I need right now? Okay, and then you want to answer that question mentally. Another thing you can say here instead is, what can I do to support myself through this? Right, this is a way of, this final step is a way of really encouraging, like actually really looking after yourself in the midst of what you're going through. Supporting yourself, giving yourself what you need. Take compassionate action to support yourself through whatever you're going through. Okay, so if you care to, we can actually try this together now. So maybe just closing your eyes, or you can do this with eyes open and just try the 3 steps. So just maybe bringing to mind a situation that you were in recently that's been difficult for you, or something that's happening in your life that's stressful or hard. And as you bring that situation to mind, just saying to yourself mentally, gosh, this is really hard, or this hurts. And if you care to, you can place a hand on your heart. But otherwise, just saying to yourself, may I be kind to myself in this moment. Just notice what it's like to receive those words of compassion. Just notice what it feels like in your body, in your mind. And then asking yourself, what can I do to support myself right now? Just notice what answers come up for you. And then making an intention to take any action that you can to support yourself, to empower yourself, to look after yourself in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Self-compassion is a game changer. It's the bedrock of inner strength. So when you treat yourself with kindness, you create a safe, supportive inner world that's going to allow you to stay strong, heal, and thrive no matter what life throws your way. So remember the 3 steps. Acknowledge your pain, offer yourself some words of kindness, and then take compassionate action, asking yourself, what do I need right now? I hope this is really helpful for you. I hope it helps you to find more ease and strength and empowerment in the face of life's challenges. And just knowing that, the more compassionate you are with yourself, the stronger you'll be and the more you'll actually be able to show up for others in your life as well. So thank you for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to give this practice a go in the next couple of days with anything that happens that's tricky, no matter how small or big that is. And you might even like to share this episode with someone who might need a little bit of extra kindness. Yeah, look forward to catching you on the next episode of the podcast. Till then, take care and stay strong. If you know someone who you think might benefit from listening to this episode, share it with them. Sharing it could really help them to feel better and improve the quality of their life. And if you found this episode helpful, remember to subscribe to this podcast so that you can receive more tips on growing your inner strength and keep practicing along with us every week. And if you'd like some more support in becoming mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stronger, come check out the offerings I have to support you on my website at www.mellyobrien.com. As well as coaching and course options, I also have a bunch of free resources for you, including a free Deep Resilience Care Package, which you can begin to use right away to get some immediate relief from stress and suffering, improve your resilience and mental well-being, and help you navigate whatever you're going through with more wisdom, skill, and confidence. You can find the links for all of that in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care and stay strong.